This is the online class for Friday, January the 26th for Math 1301. And the topic of the class today is application of the three-element Venn diagrams. We've been looking at set theory and Venn diagrams, first involving two sets where we have A and B overlapping, but then the chapter 2, section 4 covered three set of overlap and demonstrated this way. And today, though, we're going to talk about a specific application of that. And in the past, what we've been doing is writing in the various elements in each of these sections. But today, we're going to learn the concept of the application of this set theory. And instead of writing the elements in those places, we're actually going to count the number of from the group that fits in that area. Now this is so important, so listen very carefully to this. This is so important. In these types of problems, it is always important to start in the very center of the Venn diagram and work your way out. Start in the middle, this triangular shaped area right in the middle, and then move to the three regions here, and then from there, move to these three regions here, and then to this last region here. Don't forget this last region here. Now, what we have as an example, and this example comes from the book, but it's much like all the homework problems. They all follow very similar problem approach to them. We have Best Buy, and Best Buy is selling software, and they've surveyed 893 customers. And the 893 customers have given this set of results. And what they've told them is 545 people have bought games. 497 have bought educational software. 290 have bought utility programs. And of all of these people up here, there's some overlap. First of all, we have 297 that bought both games and educational software. We have 196 that bought both education software and utility software. We have 205 who bought both games and utility software, and then we have 157 people who bought all three packages. So in these numbers, there's overlap. In that 545 people that bought games, some of them also bought education, some of them also bought utility, and some bought all three. So we've doubled and triple counted some of these people. We can't just add these numbers up. In fact, if you look, 545 plus 497 plus 290, that's about 1,300. Well, they only surveyed 893 people. So there's no way you can get 1,300 results from that. So we have some double counting taking place here. And the way we're going to get rid of the double counting and limit this down to the core essence of this, to find out how many people bought games and nothing else, for instance, a question like that, or how many people didn't buy any of these things. That's what we're going to find out. And we're going to find this out by taking and analyzing the data from the middle out. So this last piece of information, that 157 bought all three, that 157 people go right, that number goes right there in the middle. You start there, start in the middle with that piece of information. Now, what we have is 205 people that bought. So if this is games, this circle there represents games, and this one here represents educational software, and this one here represents utility programs. If we have here that games and utility is 205 bought both games and utility, now if you'll note, that's this region right here. And of the 205 people, 157 of them bought all three programs, so they've already been counted. So what we need in order to find this piece of information here of just those who only bought games and utilities but did not buy education, that's the number 205 who bought games and utilities minus 157 who bought all three of them. So 205, 157, that's 48. That leaves us with 48 people, right here 48, that bought only the games and utilities but did not buy education. You see the total there, 48 plus 157 is 205, thus accounting for that whole group there. Now the next one up is education and utility, these two. And what we're told is that 196 bought education and utility. But again, 157 of those have already been counted. So this region here, this region that includes education and utility, 157 also bought games. So of those 196 people, 157 of them also bought games. Now that leaves 196, so 196 minus 157, if you do the math there, so that's 39 left over. So that leaves us 39 people that bought utility and education software, but did not buy a game. And now we're going to do this one more time. We have both games and education. 297 people bought both games and educational software. But of that, 157 of them bought all three. So if you look at that, what we have left is 140 people. 140 people who bought games and educational software, but did not buy utility software. So you see, we work from the middle out. We go with all three, and then we find the all three. We subtract that from those who bought both of each kind, and so now we have that little kind of flower shaped in the middle. We've got all four of those regions now accounted for. Now what we need to do is find out how many only bought games. Now we know 545 people total bought games. 545 people. But in there, 140, 157, and 48 also bought these other pieces of software. So if you summarize those, what you'll find, what's left, if you subtract all of the pieces from the total of 545, what you'll find is there's 200 people left. 200 people that only bought games. And we do the same thing with education. Education had 497 people, so that's 200 there. So on the education, we have 497 people minus 140 that bought games in education, 157 that bought all three pieces of software, and 39 who purchased education utility. To find out how many bought education only, you take the 497 minus those that bought more than one type of software. So we're going to work for the middle out, and that means now with education, what we have left in that region is 161. 497 minus 140 minus 157 minus 39, 161. 161 people bought only educational material, software. Now this last region here tells us how many people bought only utility programs. So we know that 290 people bought utility programs, but many of them bought other programs. So minus 157, minus 48, and minus 39. And that will tell us how many bought only the utility programs. And that is the number 46. 46 people. Okay, so now what we have is if you add all of these together, what this will add up to is the total number of customers that bought a piece of software. But if you add all these up, you're going to find it doesn't equal 893. There are other customers at Best Buy who took the survey who didn't buy any software. So that's why we work from the inside out. We find out how many bought all three, which is usually given in the problem. We find out how many bought two of each kind. We then find out how many bought one of each kind. Then we find out how many bought none of them. So we work from the inside out. And so we find that there's another 102 people, which will be written out here in this space, 102 people that did not buy any of the software. So that's how these problems are done. These problems are done by starting from the inside out. Where are all three, then the unique set of only two, then the unique set of only one, and then the set that didn't participate at all inside the various three sets. Now, here's the one warning on this is that you got to read the question. Because usually the question is not draw the Venn diagram. Usually the question involves something like this. How many people bought only games and didn't buy anything else? And the temptation would be to pull this number off the original data, 545. But that's not the answer to how many people just bought games. That's the answer to people who bought games and maybe some other stuff. So the number of people who only bought games, we have to look back at the Venn diagram and look at this area right here, which includes the 200 people that only bought games but did not buy the utility programs or the educational programs. So these regions in here where there's overlap or intersection between them, we exclude those from that answer and we get the answer just 200 people. Or for instance, they could ask you this question. They could say, how many people bought exactly 2 types of software? Exactly 2 types of software. Well, we have 140 people bought games and education. We have 39 people who bought utility and education, and we have 48 people who bought games and utilities. So we would add 140 plus 48 plus 39 to find the number of people who bought exactly 2, not 1 and not 3, but exactly 2 pieces of software. So even though you've drawn the Venn diagram, that's helpful. That's a huge portion of this, and that will usually result in a large portion of the exam question in terms of credit. There usually is interpretation of that where you have to then sit down and say, all right, now that I know that, how do I interpret this Venn diagram? And if the question is how many people bought only games and utility software, the answer is 48. If the question is how many people bought just utility software, the answer would be 46. You might even get a question, how many people didn't buy anything at all in the software world, the answer would be 102 people bought no software whatsoever. They're customers, they were surveyed, but they bought a refrigerator or something. They didn't buy any software, and so therefore they're not included in the portion of the Venn diagram involving the 3 sets: games, education, utility. They're outside those 3 sets. And thus written out here in the universal set area, and that's normal for Venn diagrams. All right, so that's how you do these types of problems. I recommend that you look. There's other examples in the book, really good ones. Example number 3 on page 77 about travel is a really good example of this. But then after that, there's only 3 examples, and then you're into these problems. And there's only a handful of problems in the section. Every person has been assigned a problem. It's on the discussion board. I've listed it there, your name with the problem assigned to you. And you are to work that problem and then either write it out on paper, that's the best way to do it, take a picture of that, and then post it to the discussion board. If you do that, you'll get a little bit of bonus points towards your homework problem. So you're supposed to watch this video, and then after you've watched this video, do the homework problem, then post to the discussion board your solution to your particular assigned problem. Each person has an assigned problem. You have to look on the discussion board for this online class in order to find that particular assignment. When you find that, then work your problem. Take a picture of it with your phone or something like that and post your picture into the discussion board. And that's how you'll get credit for today's online class and watching the video, posting the discussion board. That's how you get credit for this. And then, like I said, I'll give you a little bit of bonus points towards your homework, overall homework grade for the semester by doing so. All right, so that's our online class for Friday, January 26th. I will see you in class on Monday, January the 28th. I'll see you that Monday morning. Hopefully be back in swing of things, back in the classroom. So God bless you guys. Have a good weekend.